Good morning, readers. It's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf, and today we are interrupting your scheduled bookish content. This is the normal bookish breakfast slot, but it's not going to be occurring in the same way, to bring you a little rant about politics, basically. So today we've got the general election, and I've just got 5 minutes before I have to go into work that I'm going to complain a little bit. So I work in the NHS, and the other day one of my patient's relatives turned to me and asked me, so what do you think is the state of the NHS? Because we're seeing all of this stuff in the news lately, we've got this election coming up, what do you think? And he was asking me because I work in the NHS, so the perception is that I would be an expert. I'm not an expert. I don't know all of the facts and figures. I don't know all of the details. I know probably a lot less about the system than Matt Hancock, because that's his job at the moment. I mean, I would hope he knows all of the facts and figures that he's supposed to know. But what I thought was, on a local level, in terms of what I do know, I know about my ward and I know about my unit. And to a certain extent I know about my hospital, and I felt like there is no way that I can tell him honestly what the state of this part of the NHS is, and have him walk away and still feel safe and comfortable about his relative being looked after by us. Because I work somewhere where we're recognised to give, and I am proud that we give an outstanding level of care. But that in itself that doesn't cover the whole picture. It doesn't cover the constant issues that we have with staffing. And when you have staffing issues, to a certain extent, it's always a local issue. It's always about, why is it that a specific unit can't retain enough staff? Why is it that a specific unit is having people leave and struggling to bring new people in, or why are people leaving? So to a certain extent, there's always a little bit of that at play. But yesterday I was in London and I was talking to nurses from completely different parts of the country, completely different parts of the NHS, who are saying the same things, who are having the same issues and seeing the same dodgy staffing decisions made in order to be able to provide a level of care that is not the level of care that we want to be able to provide. We're not able to meet the standard that we should be able to meet in a country that, realistically, we don't have the difficulties that a lot of countries have in terms of funding availability and resource availability. We have a well-funded system, and we should be able to offer people an absolutely exceptional level of care, not just outstanding, but just something incredible. We should be able to really offer something amazing. That's not a very articulate way of saying it, but. So a little while ago, I went on a placement in a different European country, and I went to a community setting, and I was having a great time. Difficulties with language and so on, but it was really, really interesting. And I was working with an adult community nurse, and I asked her, I said, what about the patients with this specific chronic condition? Because we see them all the time in the UK, and I've not seen them here. Where do they go? And she said to me, well, yeah, we used to have people with that condition when I first started here. This is a slightly more mature nurse, so a couple of decades ago. She said, that's a preventable condition. We don't see it anymore because we prevent it. That is what we should be able to do. In this country, we should be able to prevent the chronic health conditions so that we don't have them impacting on our community nursing, so that we don't have them seeping into our hospitals, so that we have people walking around in our country who are healthy enough to just go about their day-to-day life and only have to use the hospital acutely when they need to use the hospital. And that is not just about funding for staffing in the actual hospital building. That's about all of the social determinants. It's about taking care of people's social care and social needs, education and housing and things that we know the impact that these things have, but for some reason we don't act on them, or we don't seem to be able to make those changes to the system. And we've got a government at the moment who's been in power effectively for 9 years. Yeah, there've been changes for who's on top, but if that government wanted to make a huge difference to the social situation, if they wanted to make a huge difference to the NHS, and they wanted to improve things, they have had the time in which to do that. They have had the time to make a difference, and they haven't. They have reversed it. They've made it a lot worse. Yeah, I mean, there's little things that they can pull on that they can say, oh, you know, this is improved. But realistically, overall, the system hasn't got to the point that it should have got to over that time. And instead, they've alienated huge numbers of the workforce, particularly junior doctors who have had a completely rum deal. That's a kind of quaint expression, a rum deal. But yeah, they've not been treated the way that they should have been treated. And what we're seeing then is people who are leaving the profession or who are not willing to pour as much of themselves into it as the job demands. And we're seeing like nurses have to pay to train. We're seeing like support staff, so on the lowest of the bands in terms of NHS salaries, who are really like squeezed in terms of the amount that they're able to earn to provide essential hospital services like cooking the meals, cleaning, and like all of the things that you have to have in a hospital for it to function. And all of that is being impacted by the decisions of a very small bunch of politicians who really don't have a clue what it's like. To go on to a more like slightly bookish approach to this, because that's what I normally do. I normally talk about books. So this week I finished Doctors Without I finished Band-Aid for a Broken Leg, Being a Doctor with No Borders by Damien, who is an Australian doctor who went to work for MSF. He worked in Angola, Mozambique, and South Sudan, and then when he went home, he went and worked in disadvantaged areas of Australia. And what that book showed me is how lucky we are to have the NHS system that we have, the health service that we have, and the social care system that we have, and the peace and stability that we have. Compared to other countries, we're doing really, really well, but we could do better. And the other book that I'm reading, the other book that I'm making really good progress on at the moment, is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And I personally think that to compare the situations that we're facing with that kind of like dystopian vision of the future is pretty much pure hyperbole. Like it's hugely exaggerated, but there is this bit in The Handmaid's Tale where the main character is talking about how she is just hungry for news, even though she knows that the news that she's going to get is probably going to be false, because she's in such a confusing, overwhelming situation. She has no way of finding out the truth, like what true news is available to her is practically non-existent. So she just wants to know that false news because she wants to know something, because she feels like, oh, even if it's a lie, there's got to be something behind it. And I feel like that really reflects pretty well on our current situation, because yeah, we're getting a lot of issues in terms of false news, and yeah, even if it's a lie, there's got to be something behind it. But sometimes the thing that's behind it is the motivations of the people who are pushing it that aren't exactly just, I don't know, it's too early in the morning to explain myself clearly, but basically, if you're in the UK, and I know that the majority of you who watch my channel are not in the UK, I think probably about 50 people will see this video, maybe 30 of them will be in the US, and of the maybe 20 who are in the UK, the vast majority of you already like have made up your mind who you're voting for, and you're not probably voting for the Conservatives. But just to reiterate, please, 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 please don't vote Tory. Thank you. Happy voting if you're voting today. Yeah, and take care. See you later. Bye.